Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to NoDQ&A video right here on NoDQ.com, as well as the YouTube channel and NoDQ&A videos affiliate, ringsidenews.com. Make sure you stay tuned to NoDQ.com for all the very latest regarding the WWE brand split for 2016. Got several of your questions regarding the latest happenings in WWE and the world of wrestling. So let's get started today with the first one, which comes from Jishnu. Hey Aaron, do you think that there is any chance Seth Rollins defeats Roman Reigns at Money in the Bank? Please answer in video. This is an interesting question because we have the brand split coming up now, and there's always the possibility that there could be some sort of disputed finish at Money in the Bank, which could lead to the titles being split. I could see some sort of major storyline happening at Money in the Bank, which would lead to that. I always thought that the guy to beat Roman Reigns would eventually be Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins would be the guy to end Roman's title reign, and I'm expecting them to have a long-term feud in WWE, although there's always the possibility as well that Seth Rollins could be drafted to the other show. But the way I see it, it makes the most sense to have Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns on the same brand and have them feud for a while, and then eventually get Dean Ambrose into the mix and do that Shield triple threat match. To me, that would be the right business call to eventually build up to that triple threat match that fans have been wanting to see now for 2 years. One possibility is maybe Seth Rollins wins the title at Money in the Bank and Dean Ambrose wins the briefcase and cashes it in. That's a possibility as well, but I think that there is a decent chance of Seth Rollins beating Roman Reigns for the title. If not at Money in the Bank, then maybe at Battleground or even SummerSlam. This one comes from Beast Slayer. Do you see Ryback going to TNA? I think that if TNA could afford Ryback, he would almost certainly be there. Ryback went on Twitter during Extreme Rules and he teased possibly going to TNA. Dixie Carter in a recent interview said that they're definitely interested in some of the released WWE stars. She mentioned that lately TNA has been focusing on homegrown talent, but they would still be interested in maybe acquiring a few of those people that were released from WWE. Ryback would be a good fit for TNA because he's got a ready-made opponent in Lashley. You could do the battle of the two behemoths, the irresistible force meeting the immovable object, Ryback or whatever he's going to be called, versus the destroyer Lashley. That seems to be an easy match to do if Ryback was to go to TNA. I think it's just a matter of, can they afford him? Can they get him to come into the company? Will they be able to pay him the money that he wants? I mean, he wants a lot of money from WWE, and that's one of the reasons we aren't seeing him right now, because he had certain contract demands that were not met. So TNA is a big step down. You would think that they would need to give him something significant, not just money, but a major push. Is that something that TNA is willing to do at this stage of the game? I mean, they might be so desperate that they'll try to one way or another get the money to bring him in. But the question is, would Ryback really be able to help TNA? And the answer is probably not. I've said this before. I think that even if somebody like Steve Austin went to TNA or The Rock went to TNA, TNA would somehow manage to screw it up and make it not have any kind of real significant impact. So we'll see what happens. But I would say that if TNA is able to afford Ryback, that there's a decent chance we'll see him in TNA. And it could happen one way or another. Maybe Ryback will work cheap just to stick it to WWE. Who knows? I mean, he'll do whatever he wants to do. Alright, this one comes from Calvin Bowman. Hey Aaron, here's my question. Why is Byron Saxton on both Raw and SmackDown? He should be removed from Raw and be replaced by Renee Young. That is a good question. I'm guessing that Vince McMahon likes Byron Saxton and he likes the fact that JBL picks on him. He finds that to be entertaining. That's the only logical reason I can come up with, because Byron Saxton really adds nothing to the commentary team. You already have Michael Cole as the play-by-play guy. You do not need another play-by-play guy. I think that is one of the biggest mistakes with three-man commentary teams, when you have two guys that are essentially doing the same thing. I said this before, if you're going to have a three-person team, the third guy should have a different role. Like in WCW, you had Tony Schiavone, Bobby Heenan, and Mike Tenay. Tony Schiavone was the play-by-play guy, Heenan was the color guy, and you had Mike Tenay providing the background information on the wrestlers and the storyline. He served a unique purpose that was different from Schiavone and Heenan. So with Byron Saxton, I really do not see the point in him being the second play-by-play guy. Although now with the brand extension, perhaps we'll have Byron Saxton on just one show at least. Maybe he'll be the lead play-by-play guy. Who knows? This one comes from Brohawk. Trish Stratus says she would return to WWE if she were a heel. Do you think that would work considering the reaction she'd get? I think it would be really difficult because Trish Stratus would get largely cheered by the fans, and I'm guessing that most fans will not want to boo Trish Stratus the same way most fans do not want to boo for Ric Flair because he's a legend, and even guys like Seth Rollins the fans do not want to boo for, but the company's fighting it, and they're basically doing everything they can to get the fans to boo him. It could work under the right circumstances, but it would really take a lot. It would take Trish being able to go out there and just be an amazing heel to get the fans to turn on her, and also have a beloved babyface that she's up against. Maybe it could work with Sasha Banks, maybe it could work with Bayley, but unless you have a woman who is really universally loved, it's going to be a really tough task to get the fans to boo for Trish Stratus. I think it's better for her to come back, if she does come back, as a babyface character, but maybe that's something that she's not interested in doing just because she's been there, done it, and she wants to do something different. Alright, this one comes from Jamie Clark. Is it ironic that Triple H gets somewhat buried after the MSG curtain call, then became notorious for doing the same to so many others? With the curtain call, Vince McMahon had to punish somebody, and Triple H, unfortunately, was at the bottom of the totem pole. You had Hall and Nash leaving, and Shawn Michaels was the world champion. Triple H had to take the fall there because of what went down, and somebody had to be punished for that. Triple H, as far as a performer goes, yeah, you can argue that maybe he did not put over other people as much as he should have, but I would disagree with that a lot because Triple H has put over several people over the years. He put over Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania. He put over John Cena. He's put over Roman Reigns. Triple H has done a lot to put people over, and you also have to keep in mind that at the end of the day, the final booking decisions are done by Vince McMahon. He makes the final call, not Triple H. There's all the conspiracies when Triple H was world champion that he was burying RVD and Booker T, and maybe Triple H had an influence backstage, but at the end of the day, it's Vince's call. So you can only get so upset at Triple H for the decisions that he has made and the decisions that Vince has made over the years. I mean, it's mostly on Vince more than anybody else. Got this one here from Fight Thomas Fight. Do you see the New Day becoming the longest reigning WWE Tag Team Champions ever? They would need to hold them until July 19th. I would be shocked if the New Day does not beat London and Kendrick's record. They're so close now, they might as well just break that record. And I'm a fan of New Day to the degree that I would say just let them break Demolition's record. Let them be champions for the rest of 2016. I'm perfectly fine with them being the champions. I'm entertained by them. And you can bring in more tag teams. You can bring up American Alpha, or maybe wait on American Alpha a little bit and have them be the guys to eventually beat the New Day. Got this one here from Sean T. Flick. How long do you think Nakamura stays in NXT? I'm already convinced he's a top performer on the main roster. I would think that he'll be there at least a few more months. Now, with the brand split, I think that the chances of him coming up to the main roster sooner have increased. I could see him coming up during the draft in July. The truth is, Nakamura is definitely ready for the main roster. It's a matter of having a storyline for him and a plan for him long-term in WWE. It would be a mistake to bring him up when you don't really have a long-term plan for the guy, but if he's going to come in and be a major player right from the get-go, and that's the long-term plan, then yeah, he should definitely be on the main roster as soon as possible. I'm hoping now that we have this brand split, we'll get guys like Nakamura and Joe and Austin Aries on the main roster. Of course, the problem with that, the downside is you're going to have less talent in NXT, and NXT is a really strong brand right now, and WWE's trying to build up that brand, and you want to have some talent in NXT. I mean, you do have guys like Bobby Roode and Eric Young, and maybe WWE will sign a few more former TNA guys. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I think that Nakamura, Joe, Balor, Bayley, all of them should be on the main roster right now. I mean, they're all ready to go and ready to make an impact, I think, on the big stage. Got this one here from Marcus S. How will Emma's back surgery affect Dana Brooke, Becky Lynch, and whoever Becky's partner was going to be at Extreme Rules? It looks like right now Dana Brooke is being paired up with Charlotte, so she's got a storyline right now and she's fine. Becky Lynch is definitely lost in the shuffle a bit, but with Sasha Banks being out of action, there's a chance for Becky Lynch to maybe step in and be the person to eventually beat Charlotte. I believe the long-term plan was for Sasha Banks to win the women's title from Charlotte, but if Sasha Banks is dealing with her injuries and she's not able to come back right away, then that would certainly open up the door for Becky Lynch. I mean, she's really popular. She's definitely considered by many to be the most underrated performer in the women's division, and she could very well step up and succeed at a similar level as Sasha Banks. That is, of course, if the fans don't keep chanting, "We want Sasha" when Becky Lynch is out there. If they do that, then that's not going to do her any favors. Got this one here from Boston Rules 15. What do you think was the best traditional Survivor Series match, and what do you think was the worst? I would say in terms of overall execution, great in-ring work, great storyline, I would say the Team Austin versus Team Bischoff match from 2003 might be my favorite all-time Survivor Series match. I thought it was very well done, and it helped elevate Randy Orton by him becoming the sole survivor, and I liked the storyline. I also liked the 1990 Ultimate Match or Survival. That was one of my favorites as a kid. And the 1995 Wild Card match was one I really enjoyed. The worst Survivor Series matches, 93 when you had the guys dressed up like Doink the Clown, like men on a mission. That match was awful. Even though you had the Bret Hart and Owen Hart storyline, that match, that Survivor Series match, was not good. You had Jerry Lawler and his Knights, and Jerry Lawler was not part of the show, so it ended up being Shawn Michaels and his Knights against Bret, Owen, and the other Hart brothers. That match wasn't too good. It was really just about Bret and Owen, but it was a lame match. And a year later, the 94 match with Doink, Dink, Pink, Wink, whatever they were called, against Jerry Lawler and his court jesters, whatever he was calling them. That match was really lame. I mean, we remember it, but not for the right reasons. Got this one here from R.I.P. Mitch. If Enzo and Cass split in the future, who do you see keeping the catchphrases, or would they split them? I would say that Enzo would probably keep the catchphrases just because he's known for his verbal abilities. He's a great talker, and I'm pretty sure he came up with most of those phrases from what I remember. I think that Big Cass has his size, and he has the Vince McMahon seal of approval that will help him. Enzo does not have that size, and he's definitely going to need every catchphrase in the book, I think, to really succeed on his own long-term in WWE. So one would think that Enzo, as the master on the mic, would be able to keep those catchphrases. It makes the most sense for him to keep those phrases when they split up, and maybe give Big Cass some new phrases. I don't know. Got this one here from Jared J. Smith. Hey Aaron, would you say the hiring of Hulk Hogan in WCW did more damage than good? it did a lot for WCW. It really put WCW on the map and got them out of the red and put them in the black financially. Hulk Hogan was the best thing to happen to WCW. The problem was not so much Hogan, but rather Eric Bischoff and the management in WCW not getting rid of Hogan when business was starting to go down the toilet. When WCW started losing money, Hogan was still there and the ratings were still dropping and everything was falling off a cliff. And that was the problem. Bischoff allowing Hogan to have the creative control and have these contracts where he can get paid all this money and not really earn the paycheck. I mean, Hogan was earning the paycheck, but once WCW started going down, Hogan was no longer making a difference, but WCW had trouble getting rid of him. And then you had Vince Russo coming in and trying to phase out Hogan, and you had all that controversy. You had the big incident at Halloween Havoc with Hogan leaving, and then, of course, Bash at the Beach 2000 when Russo tried to phase out Hulk Hogan, and it was just a nightmare for WCW. Alright, that'll wrap it up for this edition of No DQ&A video. Thanks as always for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already at youtube.com/NoDQCAW or youtube.com/AaronRiffNoDQ. Both URLs go to the same channel. Check it out, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time for more.